Well, I'd like to welcome everybody back to the podcast. Um, Kind of what we want to talk about today is a little bit different. Um, yeah, it's the same vein of kind of the discussions we've been having recently, talking about preparation and everything like that, and preparing yourself and your family. But we want to open it up a little bit more. We want to have a little bit more of a nuanced discussion about it. Because I think a lot of the time people have a stigma around what prepping can be. And they think just when you hear prepper, they just think, oh, okay, you're going to be sitting in a bunker out in the middle of the desert
Yeah,
with a
drink
can of beans.
filling your urine, drinking that
Yeah.
pee.
And it's kind of crazy if you really think about it. Like, how insane is it that people kind of, it's almost like you're that nerdy kid in high school because it's like, oh, you're worried about if things get bad. Oh, well, you must be a loser then. You probably, like that's kind of like the vibe you get when you say, yeah, I've got a stockpile of food. Oh, you're one of them, huh?
I think
So we kind of just want to talk about
I
that.
think it's important to be prepared, but not be a nut. Definitely.
Yeah. And how do we walk that line? That's kind of what we're going to talk about in the next few episodes is how do we walk that line? How do we introduce other people to it without sounding like a nutcase? So,
Austin, how do you not be a nutcase when you prepare?
Not. I just roll with being one. I don't know. I feel like a lot of the people I interact with are along the same mindset as me,
Yeah,
so it's not really a problem to appear as a nut job.
yeah. I think
they're kind of on board a little bit.
I think it's a
Right.
culture for sure.
Yeah. So, I mean, kind of like what I brought up before is it almost feels like you're the nerdy kid in high school for being concerned about it. And there you might have other people like in Austin, there's enough nerdy kids like him around him that they all are all on the debate team together
Yeah.
and they all kind of even though everybody else is making fun of them, especially making fun of Austin.
Well, look how great he is at debating now, right? Pro.
I know, exactly, right?
Yeah.
And like a lot of people they kind of go, well, whatever, who cares? It's like they're the ones that are going to be struggling if the world ends, but that's the wrong mindset, I think. Like
And I
going,
think
well, stop making fun of me.
like based off of our botched podcast for last time, I think when it comes down to it, you shouldn't plan and prepare for the end of the world because it's very low chance you're going to be making it to the end of the world. If
Yeah,
crimp's going
and
You're
down.
planning on dying.
Well,
well, that's
let's
exactly
be
right.
real.
Like we're not planning on dying,
Yeah,
but like it, there's so many things that can go
yeah.
wrong. It doesn't have to be the end of the world for you
Let's
to be
say
like, oh crud. Okay, like look back on 2019 with a specific flu that everybody seemed to get, right?
we don't want to talk about
I know. But something interesting happened. Do you guys remember what it was?
I didn't
Which
have to
part?
A
work
lot of
for a
things
while.
interesting
That was
happened.
fun.
That was fun, right? All of a sudden, everybody was freaking out about toilet paper, right? Why?
Yeah,
They didn't have enough.
yeah, it was silly. I think that's
There
a
was no logic.
perfect example. Look at the past examples of what happened, right? Where just being prepared for situations like that, like stuff's gonna go sideways, and you know, all it takes is what a week without food or something, and that's when things start getting really hard. I
Yeah,
mean, I don't want my family to go longer than 2 days in a situation like that,
yeah, exactly.
So
And what is the saying? I think we talked about it again in the botched podcast, which it's a bummer that we didn't
I know
get that
we need.
recorded, but
I gotta figure out a way to
it,
salvage it.
it's okay. We'll do what we can. But one of the things I remember sharing is that it's like what 72 hours or like 12 meals or something like that.
9 meals.
9 meals, that's what it is
9
9
meals.
meals. After 9 meals, that's when things get crazy, and I mean, look at we didn't have toilet paper for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Supply lines were down for 2 weeks, and you couldn't get toilet paper
Yeah.
because everybody lost their freaking minds,
Yep. Not the best.
and
Not the best
it
situation.
wasn't just that, I mean, I know in my town, a lot of people were really worried about, well, I need to learn how to make bread. And it's like all of a sudden, oh gosh, I don't know how to make bread. I don't know how to make anything. So I'm going to learn how to make bread. And there's like this big trend on Instagram that we're going to make bread.
Yeah, like you
And
couldn't
so,
find yeast, you couldn't find
yeah,
flour.
you,
Yeah, it was
you couldn't find flour, you couldn't find yeast. It was all held up. Oh, water bottles was another thing. It's like all of a sudden people are like, oh, wait, I might need
crazy.
water.
Yeah,
And you
water.
couldn't buy 6 months later, you couldn't buy more than one package of water bottles. It was
Well, so
ridiculous.
so what do we do? Like given those past situations, right? Those past circumstances. What, what? Like you don't need a. I definitely freaked out and had those times of like, oh, do I have enough? And go out and I was willing to drop an easy $1,000 on whatever I needed. But at that time,
Yeah.
there was nothing to get, and it was kind of tight. So
So let me answer that by telling a story.
beautiful.
So in the 1950s, things kind of changed in China. Do you guys remember any of that from history class?
Sure.
Doesn't really matter because it's Chinese history and it sucks, but do you guys remember anything about that?
No.
So there was a guy named Mao Zedong, and a lot of people are going to know who that is, right? Who he kind of, I mean, he led the communist revolution, started the Chinese Communist Party. Like he was their kind of main guy in leading things forward. And so people were like, man, this, like, he was like, I mean, you have to realize he was like almost a George Washington figure in the
Yeah.
1950s, right? This dude could do no wrong. Like he had taken the monarchy that was there. The whole dynasty was gone. That was the last thing. And he's like, we're going to do this for the people. And people were loving it. They're like, yeah. And I mean, we looking forward know that communism was probably about the worst thing that could possibly happen. But I mean, back then it was pretty untested, and people kind of were like, "Yeah, this is a great idea." And he was like leading the charge of that. And he started and implemented something new called the Great Leap Forward. You guys heard about that?
What
So
is
what
this
the
great
Great Leap,
leap?
yeah, the Great Leap Forward. And what it was is like, okay, so essentially like Russia, when it became a communist party, was like we are super behind the rest of Europe in like industry, like the industrial revolution, all that jazz. We're like way behind because we're all just a bunch of farmers, right? And so that's kind of what they did is they essentially Stalin starved Ukraine and took all of their food and wheat and resources so that he could force everybody in Russia to like move to the city and start building stuff and making factories.
Mm.
And he essentially starved Ukraine dry by saying, we don't need farmers here in Russia. We're going to just conquer Ukraine. They're our problem. They're going to feed us. And then if they don't get any food, who cares, right? And that's what he did. And it's pretty messed up, but that's literally what happened during the 30s in Soviet Union. So you got Mao Zedong, and he's like in love with Stalin.
Mm.
He's in love with Russia. Like
Who
that's his
wasn't?
thing, man. It's like,
Just kidding.
yeah. Well, I mean, back then, like in the 50s, the Soviet Union was doing pretty good. It was on the backs of a lot of people, and it was a lot of horrible things happening. But hey, if you were just a normal, Russian, you were doing all right. And so like that's why communism seemed really nice. Is on the outside it looked awesome. So he decided to do the Great Leap Forward, where he's like, we're gonna do the same thing, but guys, I'm gonna move everybody out of being farmers because you're all out in the middle of nowhere farming rice, and I want you here, and we're gonna make you you guys all like we're gonna revolutionize, right? He's thinking like way far ahead. We're gonna make everybody stupid made in China crap, right? But back then, China didn't make anything. He's like, man, we're gonna make all the plastic crap that all the Americans will buy. But we got to get there first, and everybody's a farmer. Problem is, when you have everybody working on the factory line, where do you get your food? I mean, that seems so stupidly obvious, right? And he goes, he doesn't know anything about farming. He's an idiot, right? Sorry if you love Mao Zedong. I don't really care because he sucked and he killed millions of people.
Oh, he was a
So I'm not
mass
going to
murderer.
feel bad. So he literally, while he was doing the Great Leap Forward, all of a sudden the crops are starting to fail, right? Because there's nobody to freaking farm these crops. And during that time, he's like, well, what's going on? What's going on? And nobody wants to admit to him what the problem which is so stupid. They don't want to go, well, because you're an idiot, there's there's no food, right? And nobody's farming. And so part of it is they went, well, there's these birds that keep eating our flocks, and that's what's causing it. And if we didn't have these birds, we wouldn't even have to have farmers because then we could just go ahead and have no problem and like they would just grow on their own, right? Just really stupid too. Like we're approaching levels of idiocracy. If you've ever seen that movie,
Oh yeah.
like they're, we're almost to the point where they're going to start throwing Gatorade on their crops and go, this is going to work out, right? And so they kill off all of these little finches. I think it was finches, right? These little birds. Do you know what that does? I mean, they killed millions, like annihilated all of them.
Ugh.
Locusts. Nobody was there to eat the locusts because that's what the finches were eating was the locusts, which then decimated the crops even further.
Jeez.
Millions of people starved.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And the average Chinese person had no idea, and they just followed the government. And they went, you know what? This guy, he's trying to take care of us. And I'm not going to say whether Mao Zedong did actually care or not. That's not the point I'm trying to make. I think a lot of politicians, a lot of people in government and that are in charge of people, they mean well, but they're idiots.
We can just go off of what he did, and what he did was extremely stupid.
It was bad idea after bad idea after bad idea, and it led to millions starving to death.
Yeah.
And it either could be something malicious like Stalin, who said, I literally do not care if the Ukrainian people die. They can die for me. The people out in the middle of nowhere in Russia don't matter to me because all I care about is feeding Stalingrad, right? All I care about is Moscow, the St. Petersburg. That's it, right?
Yeah.
And that might be sometimes the thing we think a lot of the time when people are preppers are like, man, it's going to be a nuclear war where somebody's going to try, like the Chinese are going to invade us. It's not always so, it's not so dire all the time. It can be as stupid as somebody going, hey, start freaking out because there's not enough toilet paper. And then all of a sudden everybody goes and gets toilet
I
paper.
think, especially right now, that is highly prevalent. Of
Yeah.
start freaking out and preparing for this. Start,
We live in a very ADHD society.
yeah, like, oh, let's freak everybody out and then create this mass hysteria where it's like,
Yeah.
okay, relying, and this is why we even started this whole thing, right? Of setting up a society that helps others gain the confidence and hopefully learn something about self reliance, right?
Yeah.
Taking care of yourself, your family, your community. Simple as that.
It's taking yourself a step back, saying, I'm going to be self-reliant. I'm going to learn the skills I need to learn. I need to do the things I need to do because at the end of the day, there might be like-minded people that think like I do, but I'm the only one in charge of my own destiny. And that's not a crazy concept. It's just saying if things get really bad and I can't rely on anyone else, at least I know that I can take care of my family.
It's true.
That's it.
It's definitely true. thoughts on?
So
Yeah, did you have anything you wanted to say, Austin?
yeah, sorry, I led too far on that.
No,
No,
I think even scaling it back to a smaller scale of, I don't know, you lost your job. What are you gonna do?
absolutely, absolutely.
Oh, I love that. Yes.
It's not always about war, right? Like
Yeah,
Yeah.
or
it's not always
genocide.
about like it's like, hey, the like the gas station I go to down the road, this particular um, company of gas, they put $150 on hold, you know, while you pump your gas. It's a pilot. And so, I mean, sometimes that can get kind of tight, especially with how prices are right now. So, yeah, trying to figure out the best way to even just like survive while you're trying to move money around, man. Crazy.
Right. I think finances is one of the biggest things our
Oh, yeah.
generation is struggling with right now.
Yes.
Yeah,
Can't afford
especially our
housing,
generation.
can't afford new vehicles, can't afford kind of
A
like
home.
the basic commodities
Yeah.
that you need to get around and shelter yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's the thing is how do you fit and I think that really leads it in well is how do you fit into reality self-sufficiency? Everybody's got a different world and a different lifestyle, different, some people live in apartments, some people live in a basement
Sure.
like me. Some people like they've got 50 acres of land, great, but like
Like
most people
Austin.
don't. Yeah. And so like the stupid thing is like people saying, well, you just got to move out into the woods, man, and then you're gonna build a giant greenhouse, and then you're gonna
Uh-huh.
spend 40 hours a week just tilling and raising your pigs, and you're gonna be fine, man.
Our
It's like
our
that is
dream.
not realistic.
I don't know if we've ever unveiled our dream. We probably talked about it in our first episode of just setting up a homestead, a communal homestead for all of us, all of our families. Oh, it'd be so nice. So expensive. So expensive.
And that's why it stays a dream right now because it's
Exactly.
not reality. You can have a goal, but that's not reality, and you can't just sit. Yeah, I think that kind of leads into what I want to talk about, especially is like, okay, there's the idea when people think of a prepper, right?
Yeah.
People think prepper and they think, okay, it's a dude that goes out and he's buying like
Yeah.
10 crates of ammo. He's going to buy 30 SKSs. He's going to have 305-gallon drums of food and water, buy a giant solar generator, and then he's going to have like go out and buy 50 acres of land out in the desert, and then he's good, and that's it. And he's like, yeah, I've got everything I need. I'm good. I'm going to build a bunker, and I'm good, man.
Yeah.
But like, okay, one, that's not realistic. I can't. I mean, have you seen how much SKSs are right now? Even a Mosin and gun. Those things used to be like $80. You could buy like a whole crate, 100 of them for like $1,000 or something ridiculous like that. It's not like that anymore.
Yeah. And honestly, if you think about it, it's kind of I don't know. I don't want to throw some shade across to actual, deep preppers that take real passion into it. Sometimes it seems it's a little selfish. Like yeah, use your money however you want, do whatever. But there's a point to where it's like you're gonna be sitting in that bunker and you have all your stuff and it's you and hopefully your family, right? And then what? You know,
Yeah,
then it's okay. Well, I've got all this stuff to barter with, but then what if there are too many what ifs? So the community part is where it gets big. Of like, hey, let's let's combine forces. Let's focus some efforts. Not saying you have to buy your neighbor a whole setup as well, but what can be done?
yeah. Um, in fact, that actually reminds me of John Lovell, the
Yeah, yeah.
Warrior Poet
Warrior
Society.
Poet.
Yeah, he kind of talked about that, how his mind changed over time. He went, you know,
Oh yeah,
"Oh, man, I gotta get a bug out bag. I gotta get a bug out bag." And then he's like, "But I want my family to be with me, so I'm gonna get them bug out bags." And so he's like, "Okay, so I'm gonna have to get this bug out bag and this bug out bag." And then he went, "You know, actually, that's probably not the best idea. I should have a bug in bag, right?"
Yeah,
And
he
so, like,
totally
he
flipped.
kinda, like, was like yeah. So he, like, made his whole house and, like, land a fortress, right? Which, I mean, super cool. Like, he really has a super sweet
Yeah.
setup, right? Um but I've noticed as I've listened to him, he's kinda changed his mentality to being like, "That's great and that's awesome, but I want to be able to build a community around
Yes.
it. I
Yes.
can't be by myself." And that's the thing is, like, you've gotta have that's all great, and you've gotta be self-sufficient on your own, but you should be looking at, like, trying to almost rebuild a little bit. And it could be temporary. It doesn't have to be, again, like, end of the world. But like, okay, take for example, if you're in Texas, right? And your power grid goes down for a week because of the winter. That happens a lot, or a couple weeks.
Yeah. Happened
Wouldn't
to
it
my
be nice
brother.
to at least know your neighbors well enough to know that they've got like chickens and they're going to get you eggs? And then you can go, okay, cool. Well, I've got, some extra water or whatever,
Got some
right? And
blankets.
like everybody kind of helps each other. Yeah, blankets, stuff like that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think that that brings up a good point is that self-sufficiency sounds counterintuitive, but it requires more than just yourself.
Yeah. That's actually true. I like that. I like that a lot,
Yeah.
actually. Self sufficiency
Yeah,
is probably the least selfish thing you could do.
exactly.
Really like that,
I mean, think about it. If
man.
all of the
We'll clip that.
power went out, if all the power went out, the water went out, everything like all of our modern amenities went out, the internet was gone. What do you think would happen to society?
I would
Pure
hope that
chaos.
we get together. What, Austin?
It would just be pure chaos, right? Like
Oh yeah.
everyone's gonna go
Well, I've had that.
scrounging around trying to get their hands on whatever they can at some point.
Yeah, I had that
Who do you think?
on the East Coast. I was living in DC and we got hit by a hurricane and there was no gas, power was out, middle of the summer, right? So no AC for a solid it was like a week and a half. It was like 9 days or so. Um, I wasn't married by then, luckily, so I was able to like figure out what was going on. Trying to help as many other people as I could. Honestly, one of the craziest things was just everybody just driving around on the roads, just trying to stay cold. In their AC. That was really weird. Like traffic was jammed everywhere. Anywhere a car could be running, it was on the road. So yeah, just one of those like yeah. Think about how different things are affected by other things, right? No AC, so what people do? Where's the next best option? Oh yeah, your car AC, right? Oh well, okay, so now that means gas is affected too because of a power outage.
Yeah. And so let me ask because I think you guys both hit a nail on the head. It's chaos. World just kind of just isn't quite right, right? At the best, it's just everyone's a little screwy. At worst, everyone's going Mad Max, right?
Yeah,
If the power, the internet, and the water turned off tomorrow, what group of people wouldn't be affected at all?
the Amish.
Yep. That's exactly who I was thinking of. They'd probably be like,
Yes.
"Oh, I haven't seen any airplanes go over. That's a weird one." That's it. Like they wouldn't care.
Yeah.
They wouldn't care. And you know why?
Oh, so this is what you're saying is let's just all
We should
become
be Amish.
Amish. Yes.
Yes,
Atheist.
exactly.
All
I
right.
want you
I
guys to
got my
right now rip off your zippers. I want only buttons from here on out.
my my beard is coming in. Very good. I gotta get my straw hat.
I will go. I'll go
He's
by
gonna help me build a
Obadiah.
barn.
Yeah, yeah. We'll go build Austin a barn.
There you go. I don't think you want me to build a barn. I don't think I'm
I'm
that
allergic to
Amish enough
horses,
yet.
but I'll just make it work. That's all I got. So,
That's all right. That's all right. No, the point I'm getting at is that they wouldn't care because they're self-sufficient. It's not about the fact that
yeah, yeah,
that they only wear black pretty much and then they wear funny hats. Like that's not it, right? The fact of the matter is that they are extremely self-sufficient. That doesn't mean that they don't have community. It just means that at the end of the day, they know how to work the land, they know how to live their life, they know, well, this is how I get water, this is how I get food, this is how I get, warmth, right?
and
And we
maybe
are so far removed from that.
there's an excellent takeaway. I mean, there's a lot we can learn from the Amish, but I think one major takeaway would be to also cut back dependency on like technology right now. Like it's an incredible tool, but also what is it inhibiting, right? What is it preventing you from achieving?
Yeah,
A dependency on AC, right? Like my house is cranked either always cold or always hot. Like, it would be
Well,
nice.
how many of you know someone that's like addicted to social media?
Oh yeah,
How are you gonna survive without that? Like,
yeah.
it's it's crazy and it sounds so silly, but there are certain people that literally, if they didn't have a screen in front of their face, you wonder how far they could handle getting.
Well, and
Like, if they didn't have Instagram to keep them satiated, what
I'm
are they gonna
definitely
do?
addicted to YouTube. I'm always on YouTube,
Mhm.
and yeah, I know it's an issue and something that I'm trying to work on. I just I just get lost in all sorts of stuff, and I use it as an excuse to be like, "Hey, learning something." Ooh. I think putting it into practice is way more important than watching somebody
well,
else
Yeah,
do
how are
it.
you going to entertain yourself or your kids if the power's out? There's
yeah.
no
I'm
TV,
gonna
there's
set
no
up a box.
computer games.
I'm gonna pull up a Sharpie and write YouTube on the bottom, and then I'm gonna have like the comment section, right? Comment section. Come on, viewers, let's get in there. Let's like, subscribe. Come on. And I'll set up a box, and I'll just do like let's plays. I'll do like car repairs. I'll do all sorts of stuff, and my kids will love
Have you ever seen that meme? It's like a meme of two people, and it's like the end of the world, and one guy is drawing a meme, right? And he hands it to the other guy, and he goes, "Yeah, I remember those," right? Like, have you ever seen
it. That's
that?
probably the cause
It's like a
of
stupid
the
little
end of the world.
comic. Yeah, I mean, there will be people that are gonna be like, "Man, I remember how much I loved, like, Reddit. It
It's so funny.
was so
It's like
good."
hieroglyphs, man. Like that's how we communicate.
A and it's like, again, this isn't like saying, like, okay, everything's gonna be the end of the world, that,
Yeah.
the Mount St. Helens is erupting again, and then there's a comet hitting at the same time, or like, it doesn't always have to be a Armageddon, but again, what happens if you're stuck in a snowstorm for a
Yeah.
week and
Let's
there's no food?
let's pay
Come on.
attention to what's going on. Like there this is a very real thing. My brother was down in Houston when they had their when you brought that up, Sagan, when they were having their power outages and their water backing up because the pumps were failing and people were getting flooded out of their homes, frozen out of their homes. Like people were dying because they didn't have power and they didn't have heat. That is, in 2023, that is crazy to me. I mean, that happened back what 2018. Still
Probably.
crazy to me
Yeah.
that you know people couldn't make it work. And so I think this is why we're trying to push this so hard of like just start practicing, start getting into it. Like just today, went to the grocery store, saw these were on sale. The little Bics. Paid $1 for this 2-pack. That's a sweet deal. I throw it. I have a Bic in each car and a Bic in each backpack. It's it's all waterproof. It's
It's
gonna
little
last you
things.
what 5 solid hours or whatever they said, 10 solid hours or whatever they said. It's not a big deal. But that way, at least I could light something on fire if my house isn't heating up.
You could light your house on fire.
Light my house on fire, collect insurance,
Yeah,
and
yeah, there you
this
go.
footage will be used to shut me down.
Yeah, exactly. Let's hope that you don't have a house fire now because we just screwed you.
At least I'll come make fun of you guys.
There you go. You can live with Austin. Feed him Culver's burgers every night. He'll be
Exactly.
fine.
There's no room in
I
the
can
inn.
make some awesome hats with him. Show off your new hat, buddy. Let's see it. Oh, looks so freaking good. I am so jealous. I wish we had enough
You know,
funds to make merch for everybody.
actually, that makes a good point. And I want to. We're running out of time for this part, and we're gonna
Yes, this will be
move it into a
this
second
will be a two-parter.
part. Yeah,
Preppers,
but I
two-part
think that
prepper
brings.
podcast.
I want to leave one certain note with this. When we're talking about self-reliance, the difference between that and prepping is that just like Austin making his Sasquatch hat, right? Or us three goons that that are just goons, right? Just goofy guys
Freaking goober.
sitting down and spending some of our time really trying to make something out of this secure society. Self-reliance is learning and growing. That's the bottom line.
Exactly.
So instead of spending hundreds of hours on YouTube watching some documentary on why Diablo 2 is better than Diablo 3 or why you should definitely, buy this new pair of socks, like stupid stuff like that, or doom scrolling through Instagram and sending your wife stupid reels, which is what my vice has been recently, to her chagrin. She really is getting sick of them, but I don't care because I can't stop.
I'm getting sick of it too.
Taking that time,
I'm getting
yeah,
sick of your crap.
taking that wasted time and putting it and applying it
Yeah.
towards something simple, raising your kids a little bit differently, maybe spending a little bit more time with them and teaching them something. Hey, here's blah 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 blah, whatever, or taking and listening to, and not to be too shameless of a plug, but listening to something that's actually going to edify you, bring you up, want you, make you something more. I mean, I don't care if it's us. I'd like it to be us, but it can be anything. But not just listening to political BS about how one side's better than the other, but really like
All
listening to
sides are
people that are
against
going
you.
to edify and uplift you and make you a better person or teach you skills, right?
All sides are against you. Everybody wants your attention. Rely on
The
yourself.
the only
Be selfish.
But there
Take
are,
care of
I mean, there are podcasts that are good. There are
Yeah.
videos that are good that are people trying to tell you, hey, get your head out of your butt and let's go, right?
That's part of the
Like,
self-reliance, right? Paying attention, keeping tabs on that
yeah,
stuff, not like sucking into it and being
it,
like,
it doesn't
you
have
know,
to be, yeah.
keeping tabs, keeping a watchful eye and knowing when things are going south, right? That's part of being self-reliant. Just
Mhm. And it doesn't even have to be that. It's just and that's good. Like there are good things in that. Like I listen to a lot of ones that are like that. But it could be even something that somebody that inspires you wants makes you like kind of go, "Oh, I want to be better." Whether that be something that's religious, whether it be something that's psychological, whatever. It doesn't have to be like you don't have to be like listening to TED Talks if you don't like TED Talks. I listen to Jordan Peterson a lot, but that doesn't mean that everybody has to listen to Jordan Peterson. It just means you've got to find somebody that works for you and makes you a better person. That's it.
I think to end this first part, best option you can do, the best thing you can do as a person, the best selfless thing you can do is to become self-reliant.
Yeah. And that's again, shameless plug. But that's the whole idea of what we're trying to do with the secure society is make grown-up Boy Scouts, and not just specifically boys, but families that are self-reliant. That's why in the coming months we're going to introduce
We're gonna
an
roll it out.
accolade program. Yeah, which is going to be little lessons that you can learn that help you become a better version of you. That instead of wasting your Saturday drive into Target and buying something you don't need, maybe you guys go and learn how to build a fire together or something, right? Or just learn something new. And so that's, I think, like you said, Tyler, I think that's really the difference between prepping and self-reliance. It's not just going, oh crud, I don't have enough ammunition. I'm going to buy 1,000 rounds and then I'm good. And then, oh, I don't have water. Okay, I'm going to panic buy that. And then, oh, I don't have food. I'm going to panic buy that. It's, yes, all that's good,
And
but it's
the
more
fun part is
learning.
a lot of the stuff is fun. Like
Yeah.
test out your stuff, and by testing out, just go camping. Right? Like, hey, we're
Yeah.
gonna go live for a weekend without power, without social media, without anything. We gotta make sure we got water and food and a heck of a lot of fun. Right? I know I
Well, before
definitely I want to try Austin's new tent and his stove. Thing looks beast.
It is a beast.
well, it is pretty sick. So before I tie it up, is there any other comments you guys want to say?
I think as part of that, it's important to surround yourself with people who uplift you and have similar goals and
Yes.
are going to support you in what
Yeah.
you're
Get
trying to do.
get with friends
And that's
that
why I hang out with you guys.
exactly. That's why I love hanging out with you guys. Get with friends that are doing the same things. You're gonna go where your friends go. You're gonna do what your friends do.
You guys do not want to go where I'm going.
Yeah, you're right.
All the way down. All the way down.
Okay,
They're gonna make it. They're gonna make a 10th
I'm not cutting out
circle of
either.
hell
You're
for me.
you're staying in just like you know.
Oh, everybody knows. Everybody knows. Might as well the podcast crowd, the YouTubers know it too. No, I think that's really important, Austin. I think there's a lot of people in your life that are gonna bring you down, and that's fine. Doesn't mean you have to cut everybody out that doesn't edify you or make you a better person, but do cling closer to those who bring you up, and stay a little
Yeah,
further away
there's
from who
going to
bring
be
you down.
those people that you do need to cut out.
Yeah,
Just
That's true.
there's no
that's
way
true.
around it.
That is
And we all know of
the
people.
truth.
Yeah.
Right.
Anything else, Tyler?
No, love it. Love
Cool.
you too. I love
Well, thanks
our
everybody for listening.
I love our 14 subscribe 15 actually. We have 15 subscribers on
Woo!
YouTube.
15. Nice.
Crazy. Never thought we'd ever have anybody that wanted to listen to us. So I thank each and
So,
every one of you,
is it
and I love each you. It's great. Thank you.
is it 20 subscribers when we get the gold YouTube button?
No,
25?
no. To even
23.
to even
Oh,
tickle the YouTube fancies, we have to have at least like 1,000 views and a bunch of other crap.
well,
We need
we'll
your
get there
help to
one
get
day,
there.
but yeah.
Please share us, get us to where we need. We want to talk to everybody.
Now you're just embarrassing us. Now you're just embarrassing us. We don't need you.
I'm
We don't need to
shamelessly
beg, do we?
plugging. I'm begging, please. I'm begging.
No, seriously. Thank you for anybody that is listening. I know that it is choppy and we're learning, but we do really want to bring you a great product.
We had a
So
cool
we
Halloween podcast, and I screwed it up. So we're learning.
well, that's all your fault. That's why you have to beg and plead to our subscribers. All right. Well, we'll talk to you guys next week. Thanks again for listening.